Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Picks and Sticks podcast, a fun music podcast where four great friends talk about the music, bands, and songs that they love. I'm Mauro.
I'm Gordo.
I'm Cecil.
And I'm Huff.
And this is Picks and Sticks. On today's episode of the podcast, we bring you 10 great songs from the band Soundgarden. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Yo.
Doing great.
Doing good, man.
Right? Excited. This is going to be episode 3. I'm pumped up for.
Me too, man. Love the band. We got to get this one right. No excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that actually, you know, what I think I'll do first is just remind the listeners sort of how the process works. Mauro mentioned off the top, it's a top 10 list that we've created, which is basically a list of our favorites. And the process is essentially each of the four of us will create a list of 20 of our favorite songs, and then we run it through the patented Picks and Sticks algorithm that spits out a listing in order, and we look at the top 10, and again based on our favorites. Today, we've got a couple of ties, so there's actually 11 in the top 10 list, and then there's some, you know, obviously some interesting ones on each individual list. So I imagine we'll get into some heated debate on that, because I know Gord's running a little hot looking at some of the individual lists, and I think there will be a little bit of time to, shall we say, defend some of everybody's selections, because It is so different, you know. When you think about the first episode that we did with Metallica, you know, sure there were some differences, but when you looked at the top 10, it was kind of hard to debate, you know, what's there, what's missing. But a lot of the top 20 of each individual one seemed to kind of make sense, and this one is completely different. I was surprised, quite frankly, at how different the lists were.
I like a little diversity in the list, Huffman. What I don't like is when people try and get too cute, and I think you're going to see what I mean later on when we get to these. All
right. So why don't we talk about the band a little bit, if you will? You know, I'll start, I guess. Bad Motorfinger was the first album that I had heard. I think the first song, I believe, was Rusty Cage. I think it was the first song that I had heard, but I'll just say this without going into any great detail. Obviously, we lived through that grunge era, if you want to call that. And out of the big name grunge bands, and I'm talking like Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, this is by far and away my favorite of that collection. So I'll leave it at that, and then we can get into a little bit more. So why don't we go to Cease, and why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with Soundgarden?
You know, Bad Motorfinger was the beginning of it. When that came out, I had that in my truck, and then I started to piss my friends off because I would not let anyone take it out of the tape deck. That just was on repeat. So I think just last week I realized that Rusty Cage isn't the first song on that album. It's I think it's Searching with My Good Eye Closed, or vice versa. Anyways, because I got it on tape.
I thought it was Rusty Cage. Is this Rusty Cage?
It is Rusty Cage.
Okay, yeah. Right. So I thought it was Searching with My Good Eye Closed.
I thought we were supposed to save our indica for Pink Floyd.
All right. Gordo?
Man, the first time I heard Soundgarden, I was lucky enough to hear Louder Than Love. A couple guys played it for me in their truck, and at first I was confused. I'm like, it's not glam metal, it's not hair metal. What's going on? They're kind of like Sabbath, but they're not, and they're kind of slow, but they're heavy. I don't know what it was, but I just loved that album.
Yeah, nobody sounds like them, or they don't sound like anyone, but they're not that different, you know?
Yeah, like they kind of sound familiar and something brand new at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but I loved them right away. As a drummer, too, I really liked Matt Cameron's drumming. It was really different, really, really solid. And Yeah, I just couldn't wait to hear more of them. So not long after that, Bad Motorfinger came out. So it was only a few months before. So yeah, great album.
Mauro?
I used to go down to, it was a little record store on 8th Ave downtown. It was called The Attic.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's right.
Love that place.
and I was down there. It was one weekend I was down there. And I don't remember how long before Bad Motorfinger came out. It wasn't too long. But the guy there recommended Louder Than Love to me. And at the time when I bought it, the Screaming Life EP was out as well. So I put my savings together and I actually bought both tapes at that time. And then I listened to those two albums quite a bit before Bad Motorfinger came out. And then when Bad Motorfinger came out, it was pretty incredible because I enjoyed the band. I enjoyed the songs before that came out. And then when that came out, it was just incredible how really it was evident that music production does have huge value in what a band does, because the way that Bad Motorfinger was produced was phenomenal compared to the previous albums. So you could just get so much more of their sound. And so, yeah, I mean, I was a big fan before, but I was a huge fan after that came out, and I have been ever since. I'm not as keen on the new album, but or the newest album, sorry.
Yeah,
King
it seems
Animal.
new. It was like 2012, I think.
Yeah,
It feels like it
seems
just
new.
came out a couple of years ago.
I didn't know it existed.
But that was my background as Soundgarden. It just came off a referral of one of the guys down at the Attic, and I used to frequent that place, and they'd always give you a little gem to go home with. So one day it was Soundgarden.
And it's funny you say that. I had forgotten all about that. The first time I had heard Louder Than Love was at your house.
Right.
That's the first time I had heard it. I'd never heard it before. I think, I guess nothing has really changed. It was okay. There were some songs on there that I thought were good. But once I heard Bad Motorfinger and then the subsequent albums, and you'll see that in my list here once we get into it, I find their, everything Bad Motorfinger and beyond I really, really like, and we can maybe get into that here now as we attack this list.
Let's do it, man.
The list is
Absolutely.
Yeah, the list is funny. So, as a heads up to everybody listening, on the, I guess in the top 10 or top 11, essentially, because of that tie, they all come off of Bad Motorfinger, Super Unknown, and Down on the Upside. Is that correct? Yeah. So they all come off of those three albums. Now, again, you run into a little bit of a challenge in the way that, Bad Motorfinger again was just at that time, again with the grunge movement and that, just an incredible album, hugely popular, particularly around our neck of the woods here. And Super Unknown just completely blew up in terms of popularity, worldwide and all of that. So Down on the Upside, probably not. I think it's a little bit underrated in my opinion. And I don't know I might pause here actually. In terms of Down on the Upside, I've got 3 of my 20 from that album, but I don't know what again, that was sort of the latest release until they got back together for King Animal. Anybody love that album, or how do you feel about the album? I think it's underrated. I think it's better than people give it credit for.
I think it's a great album. I don't think it made our top 10.
No, it didn't actually.
There wasn't
It
a
was just
song
outside.
from there on our top 10.
The top 10's just the 2 albums.
Is it really?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Oh shit, it is too.
I find
Okay,
down
my bad.
Down on the Upside is it's a little bit of a disjointed album. And it has a lot of songs, so it would be very easy. Like I noticed we had a lot of discrepancies outside of Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, like a lot of different picks. And Down on the Upside to me is one of those albums where there's a lot of songs on it, so for me, there's a handful that I really like, and there's a handful, and the rest are, I think, decent, but not amazing.
Yeah.
And I think when you look through all of our top 20s, there's not a lot of down on the upside on there, but a handful of tunes like, Blow Up the Outside World, Burden in My Hand, songs like that are definitely there.
I think keeping in mind the almost impossible task, I mean, you could make the case that Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown are two of the best rock albums a band has put together back to back. Like, they're right there with some of the big bands like the Beatles and whatnot in terms of quality. Like, those are two huge albums. Like, they had to throw one in there that it's still a good album, but you're right, it's not quite as good as those two, so it probably doesn't get the credit it deserves. I think it shows up correctly on our list, though. Nothing in the top 10 and a handful in the teens, and I think that was pretty. I think it's a pretty accurate depiction.
Yeah. So maybe, given the fact that we've got 11 songs from 2 albums really peppering the top list, maybe we don't go through each and every song. We can touch on a few, but maybe the way that things worked out with this particular list is maybe we start looking at the bottom, not the bottom 10, but the 11 to 18, 11 to 20, somewhere in there, and then attack some of the individual top 20s from each of us and cherry pick a few things and a little more commentary. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sure. Okay, so let's get to the overall list. The tie for 10th place is Spoonman and My Wave. Now, Spoonman, all 4 of us had on our top 20s. My Wave, I want to talk about in 2 different ways. One was that both Cecil and I did not have that on our list. I actually accidentally, it came on today while I was waiting for my boy at baseball, and I listened to that tune, and I may have made an error there. But again, when you can only get 20 in your list, it's hard to fit it in. But the point that what I really want to talk about is the fact that Mauro had it number 1. So that's kind of the way that it probably cracked into the top 10 is a lot of points for a first place finish. So Mauro, talk about My Wave.
It was for a long time my favorite song on that album. It was actually the one song I know, like, playing guitar. You don't hear a lot of people covering Soundgarden songs because the guitaring is so odd.
Yeah.
The tunings are so weird. So My Wave is one of the songs that I did learn. And I just really like that I think it's a riff driven song, and it's always been one of those songs like it's a can't miss for me. It's a can't miss for me. And I actually struggled between that and Jesus Christ Pose. But My Wave just edged it out. I really like the musicianship on it, and I just like how it's a punchy, riffy tune.
Yeah, it is. It is a good song, and again, it's one of those things where I almost feel bad that it didn't make my top 20. But again, when I look at the 20, it's very difficult for me to figure out which one to take out. So the next 2 songs, we'll talk about the next 2 again together because they are tied for what is effectively 8th place. Mailman and Rusty Cage. So that's 3 of these 4 songs that Cecil hasn't had on his list at all. So Cecil hasn't had My Wave, Rusty Cage, or Mailman on his list. So I'm going to put him on the spot. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, too many.
How do you not have
songs.
Rusty? At the very least, how the hell do you not have Rusty Cage on your top 20? Are you drunk?
Yeah, I kind of. You probably could have made it on the list after, but I used to not really dig it as much. Just the opening I like now, but the opening kind of irritated me. But now I think it's pretty awesome now. But I just hey, you got a lot to choose from, and I had to fit some of them older ones on there just to bug Gord.
So yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. I did notice that you've got a song from Ultra Mega OK like at number 5 or something, and that is
Best.
complete insanity, right?
That's one of the
in
best
my opinion.
opening riffs. He is. Yeah, that's an all out air. That's an all out air guitar beginning. You cannot pick up your hands in air guitar.
Well, what song are we talking about? Is that Flower?
Yeah, Flower.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, Flower's good, man.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. Mailman, I'm gonna send over to Gord because you had that really high on your personal list at number 6. Another super unknown song. Good tune. What?
I did. I like this song a lot. It's Soundgarden pull off a lot of different sounds in terms of and speeds. Like a lot of their stuff is darker. They have the odd uplifting song like Rusty Cage, ones that move along pretty quick. This one's like along with Fourth of July, which is higher up on our list, is one of those really slow, heavy, Sabbathy songs where they let Chris Cornell carry the weight with his singing. I really like the singing on this. I can't say that about every Soundgarden song, especially some of their early stuff. I think he's trying to find his voice, or more importantly, figure out just how to sing. And he can get a little waily, and I know that turns a lot of people off of Soundgarden in general. Is there some of the early stuff? But I think Chris Cornell really shines in this one. And I just dig the heavy, slow riff. I think it's a phenomenal song.
Yeah, I agree. In at number 7, song called Like Suicide. I don't know if anyone wants to. I didn't have that on my list. It's not one of my favorites from that album, but I don't know if
this one's good at weddings.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think, maybe I'll back up a little bit as well. And I think part of the reason why I struggle with this song, I mean, it's never been one of my favorite songs anyway, but just, it was again, because I love this band so much, and I really, really love Chris Cornell and his style of singing. I think he's a great frontman, a great vocalist. It was very difficult for me that day that we lost him. And for whatever reason, I think just when I see the title of that song, I just can't put it on the list, sort of thing. So I think that probably played a little bit of a part for me.
Did Come As You Are make your list with Nirvana when he says, "No, I don't have a gun"? Because he did too.
Yeah, you know what? I never even thought of that, but yes, it did make my list. I think it was around 18 or 19, but yeah.
Jesus, I just noticed the irony of the title of the next song on our list.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, the Day I Tried to Live is a great fucking song. Like I love that song.
Yeah, that's a gooder.
I
No
don't know
Cecil
what else
though. How do you explain this?
Yeah, Cecil didn't have that anywhere on his list.
Okay.
Yeah, and I only picked 19, so I could have.
He could have put it in at number 20. He could have
that could have been
there.
20 as well.
Yeah, yeah, you did leave an open spot there, but yeah, I had that at number 5. What I found interesting when I did my list, I had a lot more super unknown songs on it than I thought, but once I went back and revisited it, I heard that song and I absolutely loved it. And then, The Day I Tried to Live is tied for 5th place, if you will, on the overall list, along with another song that Gord, you touched on a little bit earlier, 4th of July. And I love that just muddy, heavy, slow chugging riff,
Yeah, dude.
and
I got a
Cornell's awesome.
Sorry, Huff.
No, I just, I think he sings just beautifully on that song too.
I got a chance to see them live, and I think it must have been 94, right after Super Unknown. So it was that tour. And then I saw them in, I think, 2010 or 11. So it was right before their latest album, when they were just kind of getting back together. And they played that song live. And both times I remember taking note. They played it like amongst some more up-tempo stuff, and it just really stuck out. And it was really, really cool live. I don't know why that one sticks out so much, because it's such an oddball live for them, but it really was performed well.
Yeah, it's a hell of a riff. I love giving that lots of volume in the car when I'm driving it, which is, is not normally what you'd call a driving song, right?
No, not at all.
But it's got just a thickness to it that I really enjoy. If we move on to the next one, Fell on Black Days. I'm gonna throw it over to Mauro. I think you had it fifth or sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4. You had that fifth. I had it high up on mine. I had it third as well. So you and I were kind of leading the way on Fell on Black Days. What would you like to say to the listeners about that and why they should listen to that song?
I think it's just a great rock tune, and it's probably one of the most, other than Black Hole Sun and that kind of stuff. It's more. It actually reminds me. Audioslave reminds me of that song, and I feel like that was Audioslave before Audioslave existed, and I really think it's a well put together song. And when I hear it, I think, oh, it reminds me of Audioslave, even though it was before Audioslave. So
yeah, and completely different musicians other than the singer,
yeah,
right?
and just the way he sings it, and I think you can tell he put his songwriting touch on it as he did in the post Soundgarden Audioslave days. So that's why it's just it's not a super heavy tune, and it's not a super slow tune, ballady like say Burden in My Hand or Black Hole Sun or a song like that. So that's why I like it. I like the guitar as well. I think it's really good.
Well, I mean, Kim Thale is I would think highly regarded in the guitar community. I find they've got, Gordo, you talked about it too. They've got so many different sounds, and they got some weird ass time signatures, and and
odd tunings,
odd tunings, and whether it's like between Kim and Matt Cameron, they really do bring some different elements rather than just they are not AC/DC, if you will, right? It's not
he
just
had
4/4 time and away we go, boys.
A la Jimmy Page, he had a zillion guitars with him for concerts, because the tunings for all the songs are so, like, they're not bizarre tunings, but there's really weird ones, and there's so many of them. And so, like, when you listen to, especially like the 4th of July, it's in some sort of C tuning. I don't have it with me. It's not a drop C, but I think it's something like that. And then you go to something like My Wave, and it's a drop D, and then you go to something else and it's a drop C, and then very, very few are conventional tuning. That's why they get that really, really interesting sound. And he was a guitar player, and he was focused on guitar, his guitar sounds and his guitar tunes. And Jimmy Page was a lot like that. If you notice, Led Zeppelin has a lot of songs. You can't just go and jam a Led Zeppelin jam or a Soundgarden jam, because you'd be sitting there tuning your guitar half the time, right? So
you need a guitar tech.
Yeah.
When I first learned to play guitar, I bought the Super Unknown book, and it was frustrating because there was a couple songs in drop D, and then no tunings were the same, I think.
One thing I like about them too is, as you touched on, Huff, they do a lot of odd time signatures. Like, they do a lot of 5/4, a lot of 7/8. They have a couple songs, I think, in 9/8. Is that, I know some bands that almost seem like they go out of their way. They'll say, let's write a song on 7/8 just to be that band. I have a feeling these guys just did a little more naturally. Like, they just wrote a riff, and it happened to be in that time. It was a little more organic. I don't think they sat down and tried to be clever. I think they just wrote a riff, thought it was cool, and it happened to be in a weird time. And then they had a drummer and a band for that matter, good enough to pull it off. And I like that about them. And I like how they switch in the song too. They don't stay in one time. They'll switch to a conventional 4/4 for the chorus, and they'll flip right back. And to the average listener that maybe isn't a musician per se, they hear that something's a little different, but they can't quite understand what's happening. And it's really fascinating if you're into music theory and stuff. But they do it very naturally.
Yeah, and
I find
Go ahead,
that, and so I didn't comment on like Suicide. And the one thing about like Suicide is that I love the groove, and the bass line is super super cool and very it's catchy and dark, and it reminds me of something that Tool would do, and that's sort of the appeal of the song for me. I mean, not to mention it is a dark song, but and the vocals are quite good, but. I find it's like a Tool song. It's a long song, and it's really bass driven, and it's like Gord was saying, that they put together some cool stuff with their time signatures and their odd tunings that you don't hear from a lot of bands, especially the grunge bands, other than the drop D stuff.
Yeah. You know what you just did, man? If the 5 people that we might have listening to this, if 3 of them are Tool fans, they're all emailing right now. Don't you fucking compare Soundgarden to Tool.
Yeah.
Tool does that on purpose. They're progressive masterminds.
We've only got Christ. 2 listeners now for next episode. we're losing people quickly. You know, when you talk about, you know, the time signatures and some of the different things that they do, I found that very, very front and center, very evident on King Animal, and I don't know how much time you guys have spent listening to, you know, their most recent and what is to be their last album. For King Animal, I would say if you haven't listened to that album a lot, and you really want to see that musicianship and some of the neat stuff that they do, King Animal I think is a really, really good solid album.
Maybe, Huffman, what we could do then is maybe we should get through the rest of these top 10 and we can talk a little bit about that. I know we have some, as you said, a lot of consensus around Super Unknown and Bad Motorfinger, but our opinions take a definite turn when it comes to anything before or after.
Yeah, so let's talk. So that's great because, you know, Mauro was talking about it. That would have been a great segue when he was talking about Fell on Black Days. Black Hole Sun came in the 3 spot. I'm not so. That is still a favorite song of mine, and for those who have listened to for the 5 people that may have listened to the previous 2 podcasts, one of the things that has been a theme for us, I feel, has been those songs that were really, really popular. They're on the radio, they were everywhere, and we got tired of them.
Definitely.
And I didn't find that happened with this band. When you saw that what the top 20 was, or the top 10 even, and we'll do a recap here, but after we're done. But a lot of them were very popular songs, and Black Hole Sun may be one of the most played songs and in heavy radio rotation than any song they've ever written, and it's number 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I just subjected my son to this right before the podcast. He was stuck in the vehicle with me, and I had it cranked, and I was loving it. He didn't like it as much as I did, but I think it does have a universal appeal. I don't know why some of these songs just stand the test of time better than others. But you're right. This song was everywhere back in the day, and I still love it.
Well, the video was bizarre, too.
I don't remember the video.
Oh, yeah.
When the song came out, the video was quite popular as well. I mean, obviously not so much anymore.
Yeah, I don't really remember it.
Yeah, that never got ruined for me hearing it so much. But it's probably because it's not such a simple song. It's good at pleasing on the ear instead of just like a 3-chord snooze fest.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Carry on.
The top 2 songs are both from Bad Motorfinger. The one that came in at number 1, Jesus Christ Pose. Number 2, Outshined. Saying that, Outshined was quite a ways back in terms of points, but Mauro didn't have it on his list. That was obviously an egregious oversight on his part. He has since apologized.
I meant to have it 20th.
Yeah, so
I meant to have 20th, and I can defend why.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to. Whether it's on your list or not, or if it's in 20th, I still think that's insane. That's one of my favorite riffs. I mean, I had it first. Did anyone else have it? I had that first. Cecil had Jesus Christ Pose first. Where was Gordo? You had Jesus Christ in 5th. Outshine was a little bit further down on Gord's list at number 12. Mauro had Jesus Christ Pose second, and then of course didn't have Outshined Anywhere. So those two songs, I still listen to, and I think they're amazing songs, and they're just, I can see, going back to what you said, Gord, about the way that Cornell sings sometimes, particularly in Jesus Christ Pose, like that upper register that very few guys can hit. I mean, he spends a lot of time in that upper register. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, he definitely does. I hate to make this comparison, but silly one that jumped into my head was, and I think we're going to do these guys soon, but he kind of reminds me of Axl Rose in terms of his range. And sometimes Axl will linger in the upper range, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it really doesn't. You're breaking glass with that voice. But Cornell could have easily, if he would have been born like 5 years earlier, he easily could have been in a hair metal band. Like, no doubt about it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
Yeah, they're not quite hair metally, but close to it in the early days. You kind of like Diener from Fubar.
Yeah, like you said. I mean, you could see him doing, maybe White Snake.
It's also like that song "Birth Ritual." Who had it on their list? Huffman, you
I
had
did.
it up around 8.
I had it. Yeah.
I had that song lingering around the 20s, and I listened to it again when I was in a different mood, and I just couldn't take it. It is just too much Chris Cornell wailing away like 6 minutes. And I know that one's off of, I believe, the Singles soundtrack, if that's correct,
Yeah.
which is an amazing soundtrack. But he almost, in my mind, single-handedly like takes that song down a few pegs.
See, and I can see that. To me, it's very Bad Motorfinger like. It's very Jesus Christ Pose like. There are some similarities there, but yeah, he's just absolutely crushing that upper range, which he tends to do sometimes. And that's, Mauro, when you're talking about Kim Thale and the comparisons with Jimmy Page and stuff like that, and when I think about Chris Cornell, I think there's a little bit of there's a little bit of Robert Plant.
Oh, there it is.
Right?
There it is.
And there is. I mean, there's only so
there
many
is.
guys that can sing at that.
Not many people can sing like that.
Right? Axl
I'd
Rose
agree.
is one of them, and that's
When
what
Gord said Axl Rose, I thought he was going to say Robert Plant.
That was my
Yeah.
second. And
Yeah.
maybe it should be said, just because you can sing like that doesn't necessarily mean you should all the time. But yeah,
Fair.
a lot of guys don't have that range, and he exercises that right to display it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Soundgarden songs that I like, most of them don't go into that upper register in terms of his vocals, because I prefer him singing a little lower.
Mm-hmm.
You like to keep the man down, eh?
Jesus Christ Pose, it fits the song, right?
Yeah.
It fits the tune, and that could be a grating song for somebody that doesn't like that kind of music. I could see why.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The few
100%.
people that I know that just absolutely don't like Soundgarden, there's not many, but they're out there. They always point directly to Chris Cornell, and they just don't like the singing, and that's it. They
I don't
care
know how
what
you
they hear.
could point at the music, because the music's phenomenal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe that's why, I like Bad Motorfinger, and there obviously there is a lot of that, but I had 6 selections off Bad Motorfinger, but I had 7 off of Super Unknown. And one of the things I wanted to kind of point out for me was, again, I really love Chris Cornell. I love a lot of the Soundgarden stuff from Bad Motorfinger and beyond. Now I'm drawing a blank. What the hell's an Audio Slave? I'd like to do that one day as well. But I found, like, Super Unknown, down on the upside, you found that it was almost like he learned to control his range a little bit better. right? So when you think about some of the songs on, like even just the hits that came off of Super Unknown, right? Like, you know, Fell on Black Days, and I think even Super Unknown had some play. Black Hole Sun, Spoon Man, The Day I Tried to Live. Like,
I think one of the songs that he displays at the best is is Like Suicide. He starts off really low, brings it up an octave, and then by then he's wailing away. But at that point, it fits the song so well. He didn't start like that. It you don't even really notice it.
Yeah, My Wave's like that too. Hey, Mauro, like,
yeah,
you know, it's like towards the end or in some parts of the chorus and stuff, he gets up there, but it's not.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's not front to back, right? But he's got, and I can't think of a better adjective. He has such a beautiful voice. Like when he sings, I love his voice, and which is why I struggle with the earlier stuff. So I don't know. Why don't we talk about the earlier stuff, because there are some guys out of the four of us that I didn't have any songs selected pre Bad Motorfinger. Gord, you had one.
I had
you had two. You had two from.
I got three.
I thought you had two.
Oh, maybe I got two. I got two or three from Louder Than Love, which I think is a great album. But that's where I draw the line. Whereas a couple of you others seem to like the Ultra Mega OK and the Screaming Life Fop EP. I'd love to hear your thoughts on those. Cease, what is it about those? You them high.
Louder Than Love it's insane. It's possibly my favorite one. So one of the first CDs I ever owned, period. Had that on. That one I'd run rotation on my 5 disc changer in the living room.
Nice.
You almost have to take that one off, right?
I only had the triple.
Right.
I see you might have remembered a 4-day party I had, but that Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and Nirvana Nevermind. Those 3 were on rotation for that.
Sounds like a hell of a party.
For 4 days straight.
I find your list to be very
all over the place.
Odd. Well, you know, again, like there's some, you know, if we want to, I kind of want to get into it a little bit. Like, you know, there's a song on there. Let's talk Louder Than Love. Uncovered is on there. It's a pretty good song.
Yeah.
You know, Loud Love. Right. That's, I think, the best song on that album. I don't think it's one of their top 20, mind you, but
it's just got such a nice rolling riff. Just like their sound, I find is like a big truck, like you know, like where instead of like a, you know, that poppy sound like Nirvana is more like you know, I don't know if that explains it very well, but Loud Love's got that kind of I don't know what that driving riff is, like best describe it, which is not good.
Yeah.
I think Louder Than Love sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that out of Cecil's top 10 list, he's got 4 songs, like two on Louder Than Love and 2 on Ultra Mega OK, and then a couple that are Big Dumb Sex. Quite frankly, that's I don't get it. I don't think that's a good tune at all. You got another one off.
Get distracted by the chorus because it's the curse words, the naughtiness.
Yeah,
of the
I find
song,
it offensive.
but it's a killer.
Yeah, it is a good song.
It's a killer song. I was doing my sod the other day in the backyard, and I did walk over and turn it down for the neighbors, but I did not turn it off.
You're growing up. You're a good dad. You know, but your number 9 song off of Ultra Mega OK, Incessant Mace, I think is just
incredible.
An absolute tire fire. I hate that song. It's garbage.
Production, it's a little production.
No,
production quality, but
I don't know. Anyone back me up on that, or am I completely out to lunch?
No,
on that?
you're not out to lunch. I'd like to hear. Mauro was kind of similar with his early takes too, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on Screaming Life and Ultra Mega.
Similar to what?
Similar to Carlin. In terms of you had a lot of early stuff on your list as well.
Oh yeah, but different songs.
Yeah, not as heavy as Cecil did, but you have got some high up in your list. More,
Yeah, I'll go through them all.
You've got Fop and Flower high up, and then you've also got Loud Love, Head Injury from Ultra Mega OK, and Sub Pop Rock City is in your number 19 spot. So
what's Head Injury about?
It's about Gord.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible.
No, I'm kidding. I can tell you right now. One of the things that I love about the Screaming Life and Fop is it's their early stuff. It's more straight ahead rock and roll. The songs are simpler, and just the fact that it got remastered makes it better. And if you listen to the song Fop, it's kind of a funny song, and it's about dancing, slam dancing.
okay,
as Cecil would say.
yeah,
and the vocals on it are actually phenomenal. If you really listen to it, and he sort of hints at he does his straight ahead singing, and then he does his sort of upper level singing, and he mixes it into the song, and it's more of a fun song. I think it's probably a good live song. All the newer stuff typically to me is dark, and a lot of the older stuff is a little more lighthearted, and I like that side of the band. And so I think what Cecil said is, I think it gets a bad rap for the production value of it. And if you listen to Ultra Mega OK, and we both had Flower on there pretty high, it is Bad Motorfinger before Bad Motorfinger came out. If you really listen to it, the riffs, the way the songs are written, they're heavy. The older albums are all reflected in the newer stuff. It's just that the production's 10 times better. And so if you had listened to that stuff before you listened to the new stuff, of course you'd like it. And I would compare it to if a Metallica fan only liked everything from the Black Album on and heard Kill 'Em All, they might hate it. And rightfully so. It's different. It's a little bit of a different kind of production value. It's a little bit of a different kind of music, and it's not for everybody. I think the Soundgarden stuff from the past, to me, is, it's so, it's an explanation of what grunge was, and they weren't taking themselves so seriously. Cornell, by the end, to me, by the last album was a singer-songwriter album. Chris Cornell wrote everything on it, and the earlier stuff was a real true band, a rock band playing rock music, and that's why I like those tunes. And they're not for everybody. Sub Pop Rock, maybe that's debatable. It should be on there, but it's fun. It's got a kick-ass bass line. It's got a great drum beat, and it's kind of just a fun tune. And you don't hear that from Soundgarden. Name a song on Bad Motorfinger, Super Unknown. There's some on down on the upside. They kind of lighten it up a bit. That's a really fun song. That's a really fun rock song, and I challenge you to find one.
Well,
yeah, maybe Drawing Flies.
You've almost
Drawing
Flies is awesome. I had that like number 10th on my list. I think it's a great song.
See,
yeah,
you say that you make the case that it's Bad Motorfinger before Bad Motorfinger. I don't hear that at all. I hear a band that is still there's some raw talent there, and they're finding their way, but they have a long ways to evolve. I thought that Louder in Love was that stepping stone album where they take a giant leap forward in terms of their songwriting. And then
did you actually listen to Flower? Like, did you honestly listen to it?
Flower is a good song, and that's the only one that they still played to the end live. Typically, was Flower. It's a good song.
Is that right?
Yep. But they changed bass players right before Bad Motorfinger to Ben Shepherd, and that's when their sound took a real different turn. He was just a much different bass player. He wouldn't play along with Kim Thale. He'd play under him, so they'd play different stuff, which adds a whole other dimension of possibilities. But that's why we do the podcast. We get all these different takes. You said that you like Fop, the song Fop, and if someone asked me what I think Soundgarden's worst song is, I'd probably have to think about it, but FOP would be in the running. Like, I think that is a terrible song.
You're no fun.
That's clearly not.
That's their most fun song.
I like the riff.
I just don't get it at all.
It's a nice change from their kind of, they're not the darkest band, but kind of dark, that's some fun.
That's okay. So you made a comment that I found interesting, Mauro, was about King Animal as a whole, and you said that you felt it was a more of a Chris Cornell project. You don't care for that album, do you?
I do like it. It's not in my Soundgarden top 20.
Oh, okay. I must have
I think it was so much later, and I would challenge you that I don't know because I don't have it in front of me. I would say that Chris Cornell wrote 95% of that album.
I do think it's
including the music.
I do think it's kind of a meh album, but there's 3 songs on it that if anyone wants to check them out, I would recommend, and that is Right Crooked Steps. Shit. No, that's not a song. Shit is not on that album. Just kidding. Non-State Actor and 1,000 Days Before. 1,000 Days Before sounds like it would have fit right in on Louder Than Love or Bad Motorfinger.
I think 1,000 Days Before. I think that riff does have a Bad Motorfinger feel to it, and again, it's got that weird freaking time signature. Matt Cameron is awesome on that song. That is that's my favorite song on the album. I had it ranked the highest of any of the King Animal songs. I think that album is a lot better than people gave it credit for, and I don't know if that is a side effect of a band that had been away for whatever it was like 15, 16 years or something. I don't have the release dates in front of me, but it was a significant amount of time, right? And by that time, had people forgotten about Soundgarden? I was hoping not, just because Audioslave had been around, and if you can make that connection, at least with the front man being the same. But I'm with you, Gord. I like King Animal. I had By Crooked Steps on my list as well. There's some really, really good shit on that album. My issue, Mauro, and I think your explanation on why you like the earlier stuff is probably as good an explanation as anybody could ever give. The odd thing, like I'm going to contradict myself here because of and you can hear the Bad Motorfinger, the riffs and some of the things on those first 2 albums, like you mentioned, and you can hear that, and I do enjoy that part of it. The part that I struggle with is the Chris Cornell trying to find his way through to, and it might just be getting older as your voice changes or as your singing style changes or whatever. Oddly enough, now here's the contradictory part, because as I mentioned earlier, I do like the way he sings. I do like the stuff on Super Unknown and Down on the Upside and King Animal. But Flower, I've got noted here as my favorite song on either of the first 2 albums. And that, when you listen to the vocals of that, if you didn't know that was Chris Cornell, you'd never guess that. You could play that for anybody and say, who sings that? And they'd say, I don't have a fucking clue. So that's my contradiction, I suppose. That Flower almost made my top 20. In my eyes, it wasn't good enough to be in the top 20, but I don't know. I just struggle with the vocal sound more so than anything.
Yeah, I think
there's a definitely vocal change between Loud Love and Bad Motorfinger. Sounds like a shift right there, right? I don't know if that's production.
And then Bad Motorfinger to Super Unknown, it changes again.
Mm-hmm.
And then his hair too.
Cecil,
when he chopped his hair off, I cut my hair the same.
Cecil, what did you think of King Animal? You said you didn't know that album was around.
I never heard of it until a couple weeks ago. And I was the biggest Soundgarden fan, like a lot.
So what did you think on the first go through here?
Yeah, so you probably listened to it a couple of times, and it's hard to
to
evaluate on a 2-time run through. But what'd you think?
it can't be too critical, but I didn't get a lot of. I couldn't even really comment on it because it wasn't. I went through it a couple times and I'm like, they're not going to make top 20. I'll catch up with you later.
Yeah, fair enough.
They can't make your top 19.
The coveted 19.
Yeah. So I think, with tradition here that we do like to go into some other songs. Gord, you kind of led the way there with talking about some of the, the other songs, but I'll certainly give you another opportunity to talk about songs not on King Animal. But if there were some,
sure, thanks, brother,
some songs outside of the norm, either on any of our lists or just off the board,
sure.
Say, hey, I really like this tune. Check it out.
Yeah, I got two. I really like the song "Ugly Truth" off of the first track on "Louder Than Love." That would have been the first song I ever heard of Soundgarden, and it still sticks with me. That just the way they start with the drums, and then the whole band comes in, and then they just got a little touch of psychedelia, if you will, near the end. It blew my mind. I like that song a lot. And then the song I had at number one didn't make the top 10. It was just outside, and it's not only my favorite Soundgarden song. You could put it in the mix of one of my favorite songs ever. Is "Searching with My Good Eye Closed" off of Bad Motorfinger. Do you hear a pig? The devil says. After it kicks in and the bass drops, it just blows my mind. And that's the song they typically start their shows with. Was that song, and just to hear that one live was insanity.
I tried to sneak that into my top 20 because I really like that song as well. And again, here's my disclaimer to everybody listening: do yourself the favor and try and create a top 20 list, and you see how difficult it is.
It's hard.
Yeah,
man.
it was kind of one of those ones that I thought about. Cecil, I'll throw it to you. Whether or not you want to, we've kind of talked about some of the stuff that you picked off of Ultra Mega OK and Louder Than Love. I don't know if you want to stick to any of the ones that you listed or anything off the board, but
yeah, I'd want to talk about the song "Head Down." I think only one. I think Gord had it 7, and you guys had it not on the list.
I had it high
just because it's different. And that's probably being that it's written just by that basis. What's his name? Ben Shepherd?
Yep.
I think he wrote 2 songs on Super Unknown, and that was one of them. But yeah, I'd recommend Head Down. That's just it's not what I reach for, but every time I hear it, I'm like, you know what? I love this song. Just there's a part in there when his vocals go from the higher octaves. It's pretty chilling.
Yeah, dude. Great song.
Goosebumps.
All right,
Yeah.
Mauro, does Soundgarden have an EP when they were 12 that we haven't heard? You're going to pick a song off of, or what?
I don't know. They might. That's probably good.
It probably would be good, actually.
Well, that Alice in Chains EP where Chris Cornell sings, it's Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, and the dude from Mudhoney.
Yeah, Mark Arm. Is it Mark?
oh, Mad Season? Is that Mad
right.
Season?
Yeah.
No,
There's a
I
4-song.
don't think so.
You're not talking about Temple of the Dog, because that was Eddie Vedder.
There's a 4-song EP by Alice in Chains. They brought, or 4 or 5. They brought the
Jar of Flies? That
and
was
then there was the
Alice in
Sap.
Chains.
Wasn't it Sap? No,
It might
the
have been
Heart
Sap.
Singer.
What?
I know we're digressing, but there's
Really?
a tiny EP. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I will go next. We'll leave Mauro to the end while he collects his thoughts. A couple of songs, Gordon, and you mentioned it earlier. Non-state actor. I didn't put it on my list, and I thought about it. I almost did. I noticed that you had it on your list, and there's that I really like that riff, and it's almost got a Hendrix feel to it that I really like. If you listen to that and think about that and let me know, you could say, you know what, you're a dummy, and I'm okay with that. I get told that quite often. But it to me, when I heard that, I was like, dude, that's got a Hendrix like kind of feel to it. I like that riff. I like that song. Again, weird fucking time signature. It's all over the place. And then the other one that we kind of mentioned, Mauro and I, Drawing Flies from Bad Motorfinger. I think that song gets overlooked quite a bit. I had it on my list. Mauro had it on his list. I think that's just an awesome song. And quite frankly, it's got saxophone on it. And if you're rolling out Bad Motorfinger and you're throwing saxophone on there, that's brilliant. It was those are my two.
You wonder how some of those things come to be. Like, are they passing one around? They're like, dude, you know what would be rad? We need a fucking sax.
Yeah.
Take us over the top, bro.
Yeah. My neighbor plays sax.
Well, how did they end up with the street guy with spoons on their song that became like a #1 hit?
Yeah, I don't remember what the story behind that was, but it was something like they were, I don't know if the guy was from Los Angeles or wherever he was from, but weren't they just walking down the street and they saw this guy playing?
I believe so, yeah.
And they wrote the song and then they said, hey, dude, I need you for this video. And they paid him a bunch of dough.
I need you for your spoons, brother.
Yeah, because he plays on that song. It's pretty incredible.
I wonder if he gets paid for that. He must get some royalties.
Well, I know they did pay. I don't know if he gets royalties for it or not, but if he does, I mean, that song's seen a lot of airtime. He could have a few bucks.
Jeez, he's really cornered the market on the spoon angle.
He's the only guy I know that can do it effectively.
Huh.
Mauro, give me your deep cuts if you want to call it that.
I would say I really like Hunted Down from Screaming Life, but one song that never got talked about that I think is a killer tune is off a Bad Motorfinger, and that's Holy Water.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I think Outshine gets all the love and some of the other songs, but I think that is got like it's got that Wicked Sabbath groove to it, and it's heavy, and it's it's a great tune, and I think it was on higher up on my list, and it just didn't get any mention, and I think to me that's one of my favorite songs on that album for sure.
Good call, Mauro. Thanks for not disappointing me. No, that is a great song. That could be on a lot of people's list. I think it's sorry, go ahead.
Just to your point, I don't know, I'd like to say it because I find that Soundgarden's evolution is almost like on the bell curve. The earlier stuff, they're on the way up, and then they hit those two, Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, and they're at the top. And then I think they regressed after that. They changed and became a little bit different band. I
totally agree.
The pinnacle, our top 10 list includes those two albums primarily, and that's the pinnacle of Soundgarden. And I will say it was very disappointing. Like, I knew this, but that all their original recordings got destroyed in the Universal fire. So all the analog tapes are gone now, which is sad because they had some sick guitar tones that probably you couldn't get digitally. Maybe you can now, but
wow, that's a great ending. Jesus Christ. And it's all gone up in flames.
Yeah, all around sad ending to a great band.
Yeah.
Right. Again, one of my favorite all-time bands. My favorite, if you want to call it, Seattle area band or grunge band, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I'm glad we had the opportunity to do it. It was interesting in that, I guess the difference, if we were going to be, those guys at one point that avoided the popular songs, like we kind of did, like we had the issue with Teen Spirit where we were just kind of tired of it. Mm-hmm. And some of those, some of the Metallica songs as well that didn't make it there because, we're just tired of it, or we didn't like the popular stuff, like the Unforgiven and those kinds of things. If nothing else, we did at least prove that we're not completely against liking the popular shit, and our lists are just littered with a lot of their popular stuff. So I think that's a just a a tribute to that band that they wrote so many good songs, and songs that, quite frankly, I can't get tired of.
Me either, man. They'll always find a place on my 5 CD changer.
Yeah. So, any closing remarks by anybody before we'll do a teaser for what we're doing next, and we'll close her out.
I just think I love the band because they're all around such a talented group.
Yeah.
And they just don't, their songs aren't just straightforward, formulaic rock songs. They're really good, well-written songs. And they're a little bit, I think they're a little bit of an anomaly out of that grunge era. I don't think a lot of the bands had the style that they had, which makes them really special in my opinion. And I think for a long time they'll be listened to and admired by just music fans, but also by musicians and that kind of stuff, because they did have a different approach.
Yeah, one of my favorite drummers too.
Yeah, one thing I find interesting is there's such a big band and they're so well liked, but there's no other bands that came after them that sounds anything like them. Like there's very rare that I'll hear a song and go, oh, dude, you completely ripped off Soundgarden. Like, you just don't hear that. They're very much their own thing. They're very unique, and no one else is like them.
Yeah, agreed.
I totally agree.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up episode 3, Soundgarden. I hope everybody enjoyed it. As always, leave your comments if what did we mess up? What songs should have been there? What songs should not have been there? If you do your top 20 list or top 10 list, feel free to share it, and we'd love to see your comments. Next episode, we're going to completely switch gears. Hold on to your hats. We're going to do Pink Floyd. So stay. Keep your eyes peeled.
Crap.
Keep your eyes peeled for episode 4. We're going to and we have a vast array of knowledge around Pink Floyd. There are some big fans, some so and some that have never listened to it. So that might get interesting as well, as we try and go through a band that isn't a current band either. So we're talking about older music as well as a very unique type of band. So
I suggest picking out the right indica for that podcast list. You might want that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So make sure you check back for episode number 4. And as always, make sure you subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, really anywhere that you can find your podcasts. And we thank you once again for listening. We really appreciate it. And until next time, see ya.
See ya.
See ya.